This is 90.9 WBUR. I'm Lisa Mullins. Medical researchers around the world have made advances in everything from cancer care to AIDS treatment thanks to the availability of a remarkable set of human cells. They're the first human cells to reproduce infinitely. Other cell lines had died in the lab. These immortal cells even have a name, HeLa cells. But what went ignored for decades was the woman behind the name. He was short for Henrietta, and La was for Lax. Henrietta Lax was a young black mother from the Baltimore area who suffered from cervical cancer. In 1951, Johns Hopkins Hospital was treating her. A doctor harvested some of her cancer cells without her consent or knowledge. He then started to reproduce those cells. Now, 70 years later, Henrietta Lax's family has filed suit against a biotechnology company they say benefited from the use of her cells. That company is Thermo Fisher Scientific of Waltham. The lawsuit accuses the company of mass-producing and selling Lax cells. We spoke with one of Henrietta Lax's grandchildren, Ron Lax, and with one of the attorneys representing the Lax estate, Benjamin Crump. Crump says Thermo Fisher has unjustly enriched itself using Henrietta Lax's cells, even though the company knew she had been wronged.
Pharmaceutical companies have derived billions and billions of dollars in profit from her genetic makeup, her DNA. And so the crux of the matter of this lawsuit is, why is it that everybody else can benefit because of her cells, yet her family, her children and their children have not received one red penny in benefit?
I don't think anybody would say that the system was fair in the least then. Henrietta Lax's cells were harvested and reproduced long before there were consent procedures and HIPAA laws used today. Thermo Fisher was not benefiting at that point. Why are they being targeted right now?
So why should they continue to benefit from the wrongdoing? Where's the justice in that?
Right. What do you think they should have done?
Well, what they should have done, is all companies should do, is to respect the fact that Henrietta Lax's life mattered, that Black Lives Matter. It was kept from the family for decades about the truth of what happened to Henrietta Lax. So Thermo Fisher and other companies were all aware of this, but yet they chose not to do anything to try to make it right.
Ron Lax, as Henrietta's oldest grandson, what should we know about what you and your family went through? You were born after your grandmother died. She died quite young, in her early 30s. What do you remember about how the use of her cells, even back then, affected you and your family?
Well, for early on, my grandfather used to talk about my grandmother and tell the story. So when the family found out about the cells in 1973, we started to talk more about what was going on. And we had tried to obtain lawyers. When we went to NIH and Johns Hopkins, they totally ignored my father at the table with his lawyer. So I had to tell the story. Yeah. I had to take back control of Henrietta's legacy. This is not right.
Was there a time, I had heard that there was a time when, I don't know if you were one of the grandchildren, but members of the family who were young were terrified that because their grandmother's cell line was so rich for researchers, that they thought that they were going to be kidnapped in the middle of the night and taken away for research. Were you one of those kids?
Yes, I was. Not only then, it's a rumor in Baltimore that our family members told us, do not walk past Johns Hopkins at night. So imagine when my parents took Henrietta into Johns Hopkins and they seen all these doctors around her, which Black folks didn't get that much attention back then. So they were skeptical when they seen all the attention that Henrietta was getting.
Let me ask you this. On the one hand, your grandmother's cells are considered a medical treasure trove for researchers. They've helped in cancer research, even COVID research. Her cells went up into space. I know that your family is proud of what has happened to the cells in terms of medical research discoveries. What is on the other hand, though? What's the other side of that?
I understand. It's just that. I mean, we look at my grandmother as a superhero. The family just very proud that our grandmother Sells was able to help so many. I mean, there's no other narrative than that.
The other part of it, though, for people would be why look for money? What do you have to gain at this point?
And I'll answer that.
This is Attorney Crump.
This is Attorney Crump. You know, we as African Americans find it offensive when you think about it in the full context. Henry Ford's family gets to define his legacy and gets to get benefit from his legacy, what he gave to the world with the automobile. But this Black woman, Henrietta Lacks, her family doesn't get to benefit from her legacy, even though people are making billions and billions of dollars from what she gave the world. And so it's real offensive when Black people say we have a right to have equity and fairness, but yet people say, oh, you should just be happy that your grandmother Sells helped make the world better and safer and contribute so much to science.
Ron, is it true that at some point your family was without health insurance?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Even to some to this day. I'm a caregiver. I've been taking care of my mom since her stroke for over 10 years now. And I could really use some help. And just to take race out of it just for a second, let's just say any mother, you know, I'm quite sure my grandmother's up in heaven and asking, what about my family? It's just a natural reaction to any mother that if I could do this for the world, why can't you do for my family?
Ron Lacks is the oldest grandson of Henrietta Lacks. Attorney Benjamin Crump represents the Lacks estate in the lawsuit against Waltham-based Thermo Fisher Scientific. He says the company is one of more than 300 that benefited from the Lacks cells. Thermo Fisher has not responded to our request for comment on the claims made by the Lacks family and their attorneys.